Most think king crab is just caught and cooked. It's not. It survives storms, tech-packed ships, AI tracking, and global cold chains so precise a 2-degree shift can kill the deal, or the crab. This isn't seafood. It's survival, strategy, and luxury logistics at a level almost no one talks about. Before a single plate of king crab makes it to a white linen table in Tokyo or a bustling food hall in New York, something remarkable has already happened. Something most folks never think about. This isn't your average seafood story. No, sir. This is a tale of extreme environments, cutting-edge tech, human grit, and a cold chain so precise it could rival a space launch checklist. It all begins in the icy, unforgiving waters of the Bering Sea, where the temperature will slap your soul and the stakes couldn't be higher. Here's how it kicks off. Picture a crab boat, maybe 120 feet long, steel hull cutting through black waves. It's late October, and the air bites like broken glass. The crews are gearing up for one of the most adrenaline-fueled harvests on the planet. These aren't just fishermen. They're technicians, navigators, weather watchers, and tough-as-nails workers all rolled into one. Their mission? To drop deep-sea pots, metal cages the size of refrigerators, into the seafloor, hoping to pull up one of Alaska's most sought-after exports, king crab. Timing is everything. The season is tightly regulated and short. Think weeks, not months. The state sets quotas based on sustainability models that lean on years of marine biology, agriculture data, and environmental tech forecasts. Drop pots too early or too late, and you're either hauling up duds or breaking the rules, and no one wants to tangle with federal fisheries enforcement. Now, once those pots hit the seafloor, some as deep as 400 feet, they're baited with herring or cod and left to sit. Not long though. Time is money. After a few hours, the crew hauls them back up, praying they didn't just waste fuel on an empty trap. When it's good, it's really good. Hundreds of massive red king crabs clattering inside, legs like armor, claws snapping. They're sorted on deck by size. Undersized ones go back into the ocean alive, part of the system of balance that agroforestry-minded policies help preserve. What happens next is a masterclass in organized chaos. The legal-sized crabs go straight to the onboard processing stations. This is where high-speed, hands-on work meets the chill of brutal efficiency. Some boats flash freeze the crabs right on deck using high-end cold tech that keeps meat at pristine quality. Others keep the crabs alive in seawater tanks if the path to shore is short. Either way, there's no downtime. The cold trip's already begun, and the clock is ticking. Flash freezing, by the way, isn't just throwing them in a big old freezer. It's controlled, consistent, and incredibly cold, often dropping the product below 40-degree fits in minutes. This protects the delicate, flaky meat inside while preserving texture, taste, and that luxurious snap when it's cooked later on. For boats running older setups, mobile tech units have started making rounds. Portable freezers that plug right into the ship's power, or even solar converters. That's the kind of stuff you'd never expect, but it's becoming the norm. Once the boat's full, or once quotas are hit, it heads to port. Dutch Harbor is the big name here. It's a gritty, weather-beaten outpost with more shipping infrastructure per capita than most small countries. The boats unload onto refrigerated docks, where the next layer of the cold chain kicks in. Conveyor lines, sorting arms, human checkers, digital weight readers, and pallet jacks moving like they've got somewhere to be yesterday. There's no romance here. It's business. Rugged, relentless, and reliant on constant adaptation. Processing plants near the docks don't just clean and pack crab, they treat each load like a surgical operation. Crabs might be repacked in vacuum-sealed bags, slotted into cryo cases, or prepped for live transport depending on their final destination. Data systems track every movement, when the crab was caught, where it was frozen, which boat it came from, and when it's expected to ship out. And yeah, you bet tech is all over this. Agriculture may not be the first thing that comes to mind when you're talking about king crab, but the principles still apply. Sustainability, yield optimization, real-time data feedback, even sonar-assisted pot deployment now plays a part, guiding where to drop based on known crab movements. Some boats use AI-assisted mapping software to hit the jackpot more consistently. These aren't relics of a past generation. They're floating testaments to how innovation breathes new life into old industries. Crabs destined for international markets hit cold storage facilities, climate-controlled units that could pass for tech lab clean rooms. Stacked high in freezers, the crab waits just long enough for a freight schedule to line up, and then it's packed for travel. Some are boxed and labeled for domestic sales. Others are prepped for long-haul flights to Asia, often headed toward auction floors in Japan or high-end markets in South Korea. From the icy waters of Alaska to an upscale sashimi platter, the path of a single crab is one of precision, risk, and constant cold. But for all the high-tech sorting arms and glistening flash freezers, there's one harsh truth. Crab doesn't care about your schedule. It's perishable, it's picky, and it plays hard to get. The travel only gets more complex from here because getting it off the boat is just the start. The real fun begins when nature, logistics, and red tape collide, and that's a whole different ballgame. Alright, let's talk about the part of the crab story that no one glamorizes, the stretch that turns even seasoned pros into nail-biters. If catching king crab in the freezing Bering Sea is an extreme sport, getting that crab safely from ocean to auction floor is like running a relay race blindfolded during a blizzard while juggling dry ice. See, the thing about king crab, it's moody, perishable, highly sensitive. You've got a narrow window before its quality starts slipping. One misstep in temperature or timing and you're sitting on a pile of high-value seafood that suddenly isn't worth its salt or your time. And that's where this whole passage gets real. The cold chain, think of it as the invisible thread keeping the crab fresh, is the backbone of everything that follows the catch. This isn't just about keeping things cold, it's about maintaining a consistent temperature from the second the crab leaves the ocean to the moment it hits a buyer's plate in Tokyo or Seoul. If that temperature fluctuates too much, you might not notice it visually, but the texture, the flavor, the safety profile, all compromised. And if you're a distributor with a reputation to protect, that's a nightmare waiting to happen. So how do they manage it? Carefully, painstakingly, and with a whole lot of tech behind the scenes. We're talking thermal sensors, real-time GPS temperature trackers, insulated shipping containers, mobile cold storage units, tools that were once rare and now absolutely vital. But even with all that gear, nature's got her own plans. Let's talk weather. Specifically, the kind of weather that makes grown men cuss into their beards. The Bering Sea isn't known for its hospitality. Storms barrel in like wrecking balls, winds howl across the deck at 50 knots, and waves can hit 30 feet without warning. In the heart of harvest season, October to January, weather isn't just an inconvenience, it's a full-blown enemy. Crews can't fish, planes can't fly, ports get locked down. And that clock we mentioned earlier, still ticking. One storm can delay a shipment by days, throw off a processing schedule, or force a reroute to a backup facility hundreds of miles away. That means crab sitting longer than it should, which means extra stress on cold storage capacity, which means potential spoilage. And spoilage is costly, especially when a single crab can fetch north of $50 on the wholesale market. Then there's the challenge of where all this happens. A lot of the crab makes landfall at places like Dutch Harbor or Kodiak, remote, often underdeveloped compared to major ports. There aren't always enough refrigerated trucks. Runways may not support large cargo jets. And when something breaks, getting a replacement part flown in could take a day or two. So logistics folks working in this supply chain have to be part engineer, part magician. You'd think by now someone would have cracked the code, right? Built a perfect, seamless system? Well, not quite. Because there's another piece of this puzzle: bureaucracy. King crab is a globally prized luxury item, which means it's entangled in layers of international rules, quotas, and inspections. Countries have limits on how much can be caught and exported. Boats have to document every haul down to the pound. Crates get tagged, scanned, and verified by port authorities. Miss a form or fudge a number, and you're facing fines, impoundments, or a total shipment block. Then come the customs hurdles. Exporting to Asia requires clearance from multiple agencies, especially if the crab's going to be served raw. Some markets, like Japan, have notoriously high standards. If the temperature logs don't match, rejected. If there's a tiny crack in the packaging seal, rejected. If the shipment shows up late due to a missed connection or weather delay, you guessed it, rejected. It's not personal, it's protocol. But here's where it gets wild. All of this, the storms, the breakdowns, the red tape, has to be navigated every single season. No shortcuts, no skipping steps. That's the unspoken challenge in the king crab industry, the consistency. You have to deliver pristine product in unpredictable conditions year after year without a hitch. It's like a high-stakes game of Tetris meets Survivor. And the folks who make it work, they rely on more than muscle and maps. They depend on systems that fuse old-school grit with modern tech. Agriculture-based planning tools, GPS heat mapping, predictive shipping routes, AI logistics dashboards. This stuff isn't a luxury anymore. It's survival gear. And yet, even with all this sophistication, the industry faces pressure to evolve even further. Why? Because global demand for fresh, not frozen, crab is surging. That means live shipments, breathing crabs, with gills that need oxygen, with stress levels that affect their quality, with survival rates that can tank if just one piece of the puzzle slips out of place. Now that kind of logistics, it's a beast all its own, and it's setting the stage for the next wave of innovation. Because the future of king crab might not be cold and boxed, it might be alive and thriving right up until the moment it's served. But how do you keep a creature from the Bering Sea alive through international transport, customs, and delivery to a luxury restaurant in Tokyo? Well, that's where the next chapter begins. Not long ago, shipping crab meant hauling it frozen and hoping it didn't thaw at the wrong moment. That was the norm. It worked, sort of, but times change. Tastes evolve. These days, buyers in places like Tokyo and Hong Kong aren't just asking for freshness, they're demanding life. Literally. Live, breathing king crab straight from the cold depths, delivered in pristine condition across oceans and continents. Sounds impossible? It's not. But it's no cakewalk either. The industry had to stretch beyond the old rules. Holding tanks became smarter. Crates got more advanced. Every part of the system had to evolve just to keep up. You can't simply toss live crab in a bin of seawater and call it good. These animals stress easily. Too much jostling, too little oxygen, the wrong salinity. It's enough to wreck an entire shipment. So companies started building containers that think like mini habitats. They monitor oxygen, temperature, movement. Some even adjust conditions automatically. And yes, they text updates to your phone. We've gone from hauling iceboxes to managing aquatic ecosystems in motion. Air cargo caught up fast. Commercial flights weren't cutting it. Crabs were arriving late, half dead, or frozen stiff from uneven temps. So chartered cold freight jets entered the scene. Custom compartments, consistent pressure, locked in cold from takeoff to touchdown. No extra handling, no surprise delays on a rainy tarmac. For premium buyers, those top-shelf restaurants with chefs who care more about texture than trends, that kind of consistency is everything. Packaging is no less impressive. Gone are the styrofoam boxes and leaky coolers. Now it's all about phase change insulation, materials that hold a specific temperature for hours, even days, regardless of what's happening outside. You've got thermal sensors feeding back to cloud-based dashboards. If the temp shifts even a fraction, if a box takes a hit, the system flags it. It's like having a babysitter for every crab in transit. Why go through all this? Because high-end buyers pay a premium and the bar keeps rising. In Japan, for example, seafood auctions operate like luxury car showrooms. Every crab is inspected, scanned, sometimes even weighed on the spot. Buyers have live access to harvest data, temperature logs, and transport records. It's not just a product, it's a profile, a story with numbers to back it up, and when everything checks out, bidding goes through the roof. But what makes this all really tick is the tech under the hood. Real-time GPS-linked cold chain systems are standard now. That means a logistics coordinator in Anchorage can see where the crab is, what temp it's sitting at, and when it's expected to hit customs in Osaka, down to the minute. Miss that window? Lose the sale. It's that precise. Even the catch itself has leveled up. Boats are now equipped with sonar and mapping software that uses historical data and AI to predict where the crab are moving next. It's not just about dropping pots anymore, it's targeted harvesting. Some use satellite overlays to cross-reference sea temperature shifts, helping pinpoint the highest yield zones before even leaving port. It's a blend of old-school intuition and new-school algorithms, and it's changing how the work gets done. The ripple effect is huge. With less guesswork, there's less waste. More efficient hauls mean lower environmental impact. Smaller fisheries can tap into systems that were once only for big players. Mobile apps track harvest logs, manage quotas, and autofill customs forms, all from a boat miles offshore. The lines between agriculture, tech, and fishing are disappearing. You can feel it happening. It's not just about crabs either. It's the mindset that's shifting. People are seeing value not only in what they catch, but in how they handle it, present it, and move it. There's pride in delivering something world-class, not just edible. And as more buyers demand transparency, more producers are answering with traceability tools, QR code tagging, and supply chains you can follow back to a specific day, place, even a specific boat. Still, it's a delicate balance. Push too hard, innovate too fast, and the infrastructure can buckle. Costs go up, margins shrink. It's not always easy to make the numbers work. But the ones who figure it out, who find that sweet spot between biology and logistics, those are the players shaping the future. It's a future where the term fresh takes on a whole new meaning, where tech isn't an afterthought, but the engine driving the whole operation. And just over the horizon, new ideas waiting to shake up how the world thinks about premium seafood. Now that you've seen what it really takes to get king crab from trap to table, what surprised you most? The freezing tech, the live transport, or the fact that a luxury dish depends on weather, quotas, and micro-controlled cargo? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear from you. And if you're curious about what happens behind the scenes of other high-stakes global foods, don't just watch, subscribe. Hit that bell so you never miss the wild hidden stories of the world's most valuable goods. The next video's already waiting. Click it now and keep learning.